Hey everyone, and welcome back to Evolve Every Day. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that can absolutely transform your relationships and your life: the secrets to communication that earn you unwavering respect and admiration from others. In any human relationship, constantly giving in without clear boundaries isn't the best approach. In fact, you absolutely need to establish firm rules and clear limits right from the start, especially with your children, spouse, partners, employees, and friends. You must make sure they clearly understand your boundaries and know that they are never to be crossed. If someone violates these limits, you need to confront them decisively and ensure they face significant consequences. Now, what I'm about to share might challenge some of your deepest beliefs, and honestly, some of it might be hard to hear. But trust me, by the end of this video series, and especially if you stick with us through this first powerful segment, you'll gain insights that could change everything. There are so many subtle nuances and profound truths hidden within these lessons, so make sure you stay tuned for all the surprises. First, remember one crucial thing. Consistently giving in or being overly accommodating to someone for a long time doesn't guarantee they'll reciprocate your kindness or affection. On the contrary, you might only find them becoming increasingly audacious and taking advantage of you. It's simply human nature for some people to push boundaries and exploit the good nature of those who are too kind. In fact, you see this pattern everywhere. Think about situations where one person is incredibly devoted and caring towards another, only to end up getting hurt more and more. This isn't to say you shouldn't love or care, but rather to suggest you do so with strategy and wisdom. Treating someone well requires a thoughtful approach. When you are excessively good to someone without any boundaries, you might only be setting yourself up for pain. Why does this happen? It's not that the individual fundamentally changes, it's about the interaction patterns that develop. These patterns aren't always consciously planned by the person. Instead, they're often shaped by their peers, teachers, parents, and grandparents. A child at 6 or 7 years old is simply expressing their truest nature. They haven't yet learned concepts of good or bad, beautiful or ugly, or how to deceive. They simply manifest their raw, authentic human essence. To illustrate this more clearly, let me share an example. My son, when he was in first grade, treated people around him, like his friends and family, completely differently. With his best friend, he was incredibly generous. If he had delicious snacks at home, he would automatically bring them to share with his friend. But when it came to his mom, he was remarkably stingy. Why was that? Because his mom spoiled him excessively. With her, he had grown accustomed to receiving without ever having to give anything back, so why would he? Thus, with his mom, he developed a habit of taking without reciprocating. But with his friends, it was different. He had to reciprocate by sharing food and toys to be able to play with them, so he learned he had to give back. It made perfect sense. If he didn't reciprocate, he would lose those friends. So he became accustomed to the idea that he had to give to receive. If you're a parent, you might be breaking a cold sweat right now. But don't worry, the real story is just beginning. Next, let's look at my son's relationship with me. For someone who understands how to shape interaction patterns like myself, dealing with him was as easy as swatting a fly. In front of me, he wouldn't dare make any mistakes. He was an absolute model student, an incredibly respectful and well-behaved son. All it took was a look from me, and he would instantly become obedient, deferential, and readily share. Why was that? Because he was afraid of consequences. I enforced consequences that resonated on mental, behavioral, and even material levels. In our relationship, I established unforgettable, impactful lessons. For instance, if he dared talk back to me, I would impose consequences like banning TV for 10 days, prohibiting toys for 10 days, and forbidding playdates with friends for 10 days, with only homework allowed. On the behavioral front, I would require him to stand for a significant period. And materially, no snacks for 10 days. After just 2 such incidences, he understood perfectly clear. Challenging his father meant facing severe repercussions. He learned that in our relationship, mistakes came with a very high price. And to earn my kindness, he first had to show me respect. Every time I disciplined my son, his grandmother would intervene, pleading on his behalf, saying I shouldn't punish a child like that, and would often scold me for it. Conversely, she completely spoiled him, buying him all sorts of toys and delicious foods, essentially indulging his every whim. What was the result? This child showed absolutely no respect for his grandmother, frequently argued with her, and would even yell at her rudely. Eventually, his grandmother realized that her approach wasn't working and things had gotten out of control. When I stepped in to impose discipline, no one dared to interfere anymore. The truth is, in relationships with spouses, partners, leaders, and employees, all relationships, these same interaction patterns exist. How the people around you treat you is, in fact, something you've largely created yourself. How do we build effective interaction patterns? The first core principle for building these patterns is establishing clear boundaries. In any relationship, whether personal or professional, simply tolerating everything without any rules is never the best approach. In fact, you need to set clear guidelines and boundaries right from the start, especially with your children, spouse, partners, employees, and friends. You need to make sure they understand your limits and absolutely cannot cross them. If someone violates those boundaries, you must confront them firmly and ensure they face significant consequences. So, why do good people sometimes end up getting the short end of the stick? It's because you've been so good that you've erased all your principles and limits. Even when someone clearly violates your boundaries, you try to smile through it and just tolerate it. This only encourages the other person to push even further because they have no idea how much this really bothers you. It's not their fault, it's yours. As I often say, you can't take care of your children their entire lives, so don't let them develop a habit of being constantly catered to. You can't pamper your spouse forever, so don't let them develop a habit of always being indulged. If you allow them to form that habit and then you can no longer keep up, problems are bound to arise. Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. When he first got married, his wife was truly wonderful, a sweet, supportive partner. But my friend pampered her to an unbelievable degree. In the beginning, when we'd go over to their place for dinner, his wife would do the cooking. He'd voluntarily go into the kitchen to help her out. Gradually, he started doing more and more. At first, just washing knives and prepping ingredients. Then he'd cook 2 dishes while she cooked 2. Eventually, when we came over, his wife would just tell him directly to go into the kitchen and prepare the meal. She'd sometimes step out to the backyard, offer a few quick instructions, and then go back inside. Ultimately, his wife did absolutely nothing. My friend handled all the cooking and even the dishwashing. I clearly noticed a shift in his wife's personality. Her demeanor towards him became increasingly demanding, almost entitled. And my friend? He'd just smile it off, never push back. He truly was a good husband, or so it seemed. In reality, both were at fault here. One wanted to give, the other wanted to receive. And that's fine if everyone's genuinely happy. But that wasn't the outcome at all. Some time ago, my friend called me, his voice shaking with an uncontrollable fury. He confessed he had finally snapped, that things had gotten completely out of hand, and he desperately wanted a divorce. It completely shocked me. I asked him what happened. He said, "You know what? I've been married to her for so many years, and I've always pampered her, always loved her. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of enduring her. I absolutely hate cooking, but for her sake, I've cooked every single day for the past decade. I pick up and drop off the kids daily too. Meanwhile, her mood just kept getting worse, always yelling and screaming at me. I couldn't take it anymore. I just can't stand that woman anymore." I told him, "Hold on a second, buddy. Didn't you create this situation yourself? What do you have to be so upset about now? If you couldn't accept doing all the cooking and childcare, if you couldn't accept her constantly yelling at you when you first got together, why didn't you say something then? You've tolerated it for 10 years. Now you're saying you can't take it anymore? Why didn't you refuse from the very beginning? You gave her a decade to develop these habits. Now you expect her to just change? How do you expect that to happen? And besides, at your age, with the kids already growing up, what will happen to them if you get a divorce? After hearing me out, he just asked, "So, what do I do now?" I told him, "Well, just keep tolerating it then. You've endured it for 10 years. Might as well endure it for the rest of your life." In reality, this is the worst possible consequence of not having clear boundaries. No one can blame anyone else here. He can only blame himself. So, if you've already formed long-standing, fixed interaction patterns with some people around you, I advise you not to rush into breaking them. First, consider if you currently have enough leverage and if the other person genuinely needs you. Because long-established interaction patterns, if you try to break them, will certainly lead to intense confrontation. Of course, if you have enough advantage and the other person truly can't function without you, then yes, you can break this interaction pattern. But that process will undoubtedly be very difficult, so you need to be mentally prepared. If you choose not to break it and continue to maintain it, you need to seriously consider if you can truly endure it. Because the more you tolerate, the worse the other person will become. Won't you just become more miserable? If you can't endure it and you are in a position of advantage, I strongly advise you to break it early. The later you wait, the harder it will be. Moving on to our second point, let's talk about establishing pain points and pleasure points. It's crucial that the very first time something crosses your boundary, you absolutely must create a clear pain point for the other person. This is incredibly important. What exactly does that mean? Let's continue with a real-life story. For instance, when my wife and I first started out, our patterns of interaction hadn't quite formed yet. It was truly a period of struggle. My advice to everyone is this. During the dating phase, the man should really try to be accommodating and tolerant with the woman. Because in the dating stage, you don't really have much leverage. But after marriage, when your leverage gradually increases, you need to adjust those interaction patterns compared to how they were when you were dating. During dating, you might spend every day around her, and if she occasionally throws a princess tantrum or acts like a diva, you can still spoil her. That's the atmosphere of love. After marriage, however, men need to focus on their responsibilities, their careers, and building a life. If the woman maintains the same interaction patterns as the dating phase, occasionally flaring up like a princess, it's genuinely not good for the man or the family. And ladies, please don't come at me for this, but if you want a happy life, you need to understand that dating is like a romantic drama, while marriage is a documentary. Dating is just a performance by two people, but marriage is where you return to reality. If you don't quite get it now, that's okay. Life and time will surely prove what I'm saying. So women, if you have any demands for a man, you absolutely must voice them before marriage. After you're married, it becomes much harder. So after marriage, you need to gradually adjust the interaction patterns between you and your partner. For example, right after my wife and I got married, there was one time she asked me to cook dinner. I knew full well that if I started cooking, it would almost certainly become my responsibility from then on, and many other household chores would also fall to me. It's not that I'm unwilling to do chores, but my career simply doesn't allow me the time for them. So I had to create a deeply memorable and unpleasant experience for her concerning this task, something that would stick with her. That's why I told her to go cook, but she didn't want to either. And that's when the real battle began. Then, I got intensely angry, truly furious, even smashing a glass to escalate the situation. Afterward, I calmly stated that I was busy with work and didn't have time for such things. If you can't even cook a single meal, then we don't need to be together anymore. Tomorrow, I'll file for divorce. She shot back, "Fine, divorce then." This whole affair caused an uproar for 2 days, even involving her parents, who both came to mediate. Eventually, she grew tired and realized that divorcing over one meal was far too costly. And with all the time and energy we wasted arguing for 2 days, think of how many meals could have been cooked. In the end, she conceded and started cooking dinner herself every time. After a while, it just became her routine. In our 10 years of marriage, except for holidays, I have never cooked dinner. On those special festive occasions when I volunteer to cook just once, she gets so overwhelmed with gratitude, praising me as a wonderful husband. "Oh, we have something delicious to eat tonight." You heard me right. That's genuinely how it is, and we no longer argue about who will cook. Because in that initial incident, I created a profound, painful memory point in her mind. And after every meal she cooks, I always praise her, saying, "This is truly delicious. My wife cooks wonderfully." This, in turn, creates a pleasure memory point for her. Under the dual impact of that painful memory point and the pleasure memory point, we established a fixed interaction pattern for this particular task. Cooking is her responsibility. And she has never felt disadvantaged by it because cooking has simply become an automatic action, a natural response for her. Now she spends her days researching new recipes, exploring culinary arts, and our relationship is absolutely fantastic. So you might ask me, was that outburst 10 years ago truly born of anger? Absolutely not. It was a strategic outburst. What we call emotional intelligence, or EQ, certainly isn't about never getting angry. Rather, it's about knowing how to get angry strategically. You can express your anger, but you cannot be angry indiscriminately. One is a strategic action, the other is a thoughtless, foolish act. When you're dealing with different people in various situations and facing diverse issues, you need to employ different emotions. It's the same in business. Owners need to establish interaction patterns with their partners, and managers need to create interaction patterns between themselves and their teams. If interaction patterns aren't well established, you can easily be taken advantage of by your subordinates. The most effective way to create interaction patterns among partners is through constructive conflict. Partners who avoid disagreements can't truly do good business together, and the sooner you have those arguments, the better. Why do so many good friends or relatives who start businesses together end up parting ways? It's because they didn't argue at the beginning, leading to uncontrollable disputes later on. Not arguing from the start often means someone is suppressing their true feelings, and decisions that don't pass through a healthy debate are far more prone to error. Truly, the principles of guiding behavior, whether in people or even pets, share surprising commonalities in how we establish clear boundaries and expectations. One day, I got a little puppy and named them Shadow. I called out, "Shadow!" He didn't come. I called again, still nothing. What was I supposed to do? So I bought a piece of steak. Holding the steak, I called, "Shadow!" and he came right over. For a whole month, I used steak to call him, and every single time, Shadow would come. After a month, I stopped holding the steak. I called, "Shadow!" and he happily ran to me, tail wagging. But then I noticed he loved lying by the front door, not in his own bed. What to do? So I placed some thorny plants near the door. Every time he tried to lie down there, he'd get a little poke. I also put some treats in his bed. Because of this, he taught himself not to lie by the door anymore, but to stay in his bed. Later, I removed the thorny plants from the door and the treats from his bed, but he still instinctively went to his bed and didn't lie by the door. Without even realizing it, I had created a consistent pattern of interaction between us. Do you understand now? Remember, the best time to establish a pattern of interaction is during that very first encounter. Because at that point, the other person doesn't quite get you yet, and they don't know how to engage with you. And the best time to break a pattern of interaction? That's when you have enough leverage when the other person simply can't live without you. Make them feel like they can't live without you. Whoever can't live without the other will suffer. If you can't live without them, you'll suffer. If they can't live without you, they will suffer. Your success in business, your happiness in family life, it all stems from your sheer indispensability. The rules of this world are becoming clearer and clearer. When you're not strong enough, you won't even get a tiny opportunity. But when you become strong enough, thousands of opportunities will appear right before you, more than you can even turn down. When you are truly exceptional, everything you desire will automatically seek you out. Self-interest is human nature. Even between parents and children, if you are capable and outstanding, your parents will naturally favor and love you more. The essence of this society is that your rewards aren't based on the sheer effort you put in, but on the irreplaceability of that effort. You must remember, your true value isn't your salary. It's your indispensability in your boss's eyes. Only when you're easily replaceable will your salary remain stagnant. In a marriage, if you rely solely on beauty and physical appearance to attract your spouse, over time, someone more attractive will always come along, and the third party will inevitably appear. Yet, there are some women who, when faced with a cheating husband, don't resort to tears or shouting. Instead, they focus on caring for their family even more, and on cultivating themselves. They make their home a haven, they become even more captivating, and their children flourish. After some time, when the husband's initial infatuation with the other person fades, he comes home to a happy, warm family that he simply can't bear to leave, and he eventually returns to his own family. Of course, some might say, I can't do that. He's cheating, and I'm supposed to cater to him? In such a situation, first, you need to reflect honestly on where you might have issues, and then decide whether to stay or leave. If you lack indispensability in your marriage, getting remarried might not change much. The same problems are likely to resurface. In the job market, far too many people are easily replaced by younger individuals, by machines, by new systems. Luo Shenyu, a renowned speaker and thought leader, once said that every working professional needs to ask themselves 3 critical questions. Question number 1, can a machine do the work I'm doing? Question number 2, can the work I'm doing be outsourced? Question number 3, does the work I'm doing have a future for growth? The answers to these questions might be disheartening, but that's not a reason not to think about them. Because being confronted by a question is always better than being slapped in the face by reality. Too often, we automatically assume our income is tied to our education, or our capabilities are linked to our past achievements. But in reality, these are all major misconceptions. How much money we can earn in this life has absolutely nothing to do with our education, our emotions, or our past accomplishments. It only depends on our irreplaceability. When your boss decides on your salary, they have a scale in their mind. On the left side of that scale is your current salary. On the right side is the benefit you can bring to the company at this very moment. Notice those 2 key words. First, at this very moment. It's not about your contributions from a year ago or your total past contributions. It's about what you contribute right now. The second key word is benefit. It's not about your personal relationships or your character. If you're currently earning, say, $10,000, but someone else can do your exact job for $5,000, then I'm going to replace you. Even if we had a great relationship in the past, even if you once made the company $1 million, I'm sorry, but if your value at this present moment is replaceable, then replacement is necessary. It's brutal, but it's entirely logical. So many of us fall into this dangerous trap at work, believing that what we contributed in the past is something we're entitled to now. And when that recognition doesn't come, we start to resent others, thinking they owe us. The truth is, we don't really understand how the world works. Remember this, if someone finds a better option, walking away from you is completely natural. You may feel hurt, angry, or even call them heartless, but deep down, that frustration comes from one thing, a lack of maturity. Think about it. We all once loved Nokia, right? We had such strong feelings for that brand. But when the iPhone came out, didn't we switch? I loved my Nokia, then I liked Samsung, then Huawei, and now I prefer Xiaomi. Does that make me unreliable? Not at all. It's just simple. When people can't find the same benefits somewhere else, they stay. Employees who think about leaving but can't get the same opportunities elsewhere, they'll naturally stay loyal. Customers who walk away but can't find the same value for the price, they'll come back on their own. So here's the truth. Anyone who leaves you, whether it's an employee, a customer, a partner, or even a loved one, isn't really to blame. It's the natural result of you not being irreplaceable. Nobody can truly hurt you except yourself. If you're replaceable, life will be painful. If you're not, life will be full of fulfillment. Look at history. In a royal palace, the emperor could wound the hearts of many, but could any of them truly wound him? No, because to the emperor, they were replaceable. But to them, the emperor was the only one. In real life, are you the emperor in your relationships or just another person among many? If others can replace you easily, your absence means nothing to them. But if you can't live without them, you'll be the one suffering. That imbalance is frightening. This is why, in many families, one person dominates simply because they contribute more. In companies, the ones who dare to stand up to the boss are usually those the company can't function without. And yet, those same people often complain and demand more because they know their worth. If you find yourself powerless against them, isn't it because you've allowed yourself to become replaceable? Whether it's at home or in business, sometimes the strongest solution boils down to just 5 words. You are fired today. It sounds simple, but do you have the courage to say it? And what if you're not yet irreplaceable? Then the answer is patience. Endure, flatter when necessary, and quickly build up your strengths. If you can't survive without the other person, your only option is to bear it for now. Take history's example. At a grand banquet, a leader once had to endure humiliation, bowing low, and even pretending to have no ambition just to survive. That patience allowed him to later rise. In leadership, the strategy is clear. With powerful people, first endure, then outmaneuver. With your own weaknesses, endure, learn, and grow. And most importantly, build new talent. Train others so that the irreplaceable become replaceable. Because once you make others replaceable while you remain indispensable, you no longer need to bow down. Instead, you can stand strong and handle them with confidence. How do you become truly irreplaceable? Number 1, overwhelming competence. I remember when I was a sales representative at a company, month after month, I was consistently the top performer. Naturally, my boss would give me a little extra leeway because I was responsible for half of the company's total sales. Other reps might take 4 days off a month, but I could take 8. How did I manage to build such incredible sales skills? It's because when I first started, while everyone else took their 4 days off, I worked every single day for 6 months straight. They worked in shifts, but I worked open to close, from morning till night. As a result, I had the most client interactions, made the most sales, and my accumulated expertise became unmatched. Number 2, overwhelming resources. Invest your time in building financial security, and often emotional connections will naturally follow. It's a truth many find hard to accept, but it's often how the world works. I'm constantly busy with work, traveling across the country for speaking engagements, rarely home, and I admit, I spend little time with my son. His mom handles most of his daily care. But a few days ago, he had a school assignment to write about a family member, and he wrote about me. He loves me so much. I was surprised after reading it. Why didn't he write about his mom? She clearly showers him with more affection. Then it hit me. All his favorite toys, all the gadgets he cherished, they all came from me. Number 3, overwhelming perspective. Perspective is simply how you choose to see the world around you. Imagine 2 monkeys fiercely fighting over a banana, completely oblivious to the person who walks by and casually picks up a diamond lying right beside them. It's not that the monkeys couldn't grab the diamonds, it's that they never even considered it more valuable than their banana. Most people only ever see the surface of things, never delving into the deeper truths beneath. For instance, many prioritize emotional connections above all else, but often those emotions are just the surface, and the underlying relationships of mutual benefit are the real foundation. Think about the pandemic. Why did divorce rates skyrocket? Was it a sudden explosion of emotional issues? The stark truth is, the pandemic pushed many men into financial hardship. So, how can we cultivate this elevated perspective? First, immerse yourself in real-world experiences. Second, seek guidance from truly wise mentors. Third, engage in high-quality, continuous learning. Ultimately, the greatest competition among humans is the competition of perspective. The level of your perspective dictates the class you live in and the wealth you accumulate. If you found these insights valuable, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Evolve Everyday for more transformative content, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. We love hearing from you.